Hello, viewers. Good afternoon to everybody here in the UK. Good evening to our viewers in India and wherever else you are viewing from. This is Sangeeta Datta, and welcome to today's edition of My Life, My Art conversation series. Many of you have been with us for the past sessions, and I know many more have been waiting very expectantly for today because our guest this afternoon is Zoya Akhtar. Zoya is a writer, filmmaker, and in the Bollywood world of entertainment, she is considered a game changer. There's so much to say about each of the films that she's written and directed, and we will talk through her life, her influences, and her work and her art. So, welcome again, and I welcome Zoya Akhtar to our show.
Hello.
Hi, Zoya.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me here.
Well, thank you for being here with us. And because it's 5th September, and I'm getting so many messages from my Xavier students, I'm sort of recalling my Xavier's days and seeing you in the classroom as well. It's been many moons. You were
Yes.
younger, I was younger, but it's
Yes.
it's a happy memory.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So what's happening during this time of lockdown and COVID? How are you coping with a changed world?
I have no complaints because I was working. I was. I had been working nonstop for about 2.5 years before that, because I went straight from Love Stories into Made in Heaven into Gully Boy and just all of them. And once you do it, then you have to do all the post of it, and then you have to market it, and you have to package it, and
Yeah.
so it was a bit insane. So by the time this happened for me, initially it was a bit like, what's going on? What's going on? Because you're on pause, and
Yeah.
then suddenly everything just stopped, and I think I just slept. But on one level, my I was physically resting, but on another level, I was very disturbed because there were a lot of people that were in trouble.
Yeah.
Because of it. There were a lot of my friends. There were a lot of people that were passing away abroad. There were a lot of people in India that had no livelihood. The whole migrant crisis. There were a lot of things that were very disturbing, and you realize the privilege you have and how lucky you are.
Yeah.
And how in a bubble you are. So it was emotionally quite mixed. But yeah, just worked. Developed material, wrote scripts. Karan and me organized the I for India thing,
Yes.
fundraiser with the industry. So that was good. Did proactive things. So that was good.
Yes. I guess that's the best way to keep your spirits up when things have changed so drastically.
Yeah, and also the best way to be of use.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, to your society, to people around you.
That's true.
Yeah.
But did it put back or push back your plans for Made in Heaven, the second season?
Yes, absolutely. Because we were supposed to roll in October.
Uh-huh.
We were supposed to start rolling, actually, not even in October. We were supposed to start rolling in, God, when did we lock down? In July or something. We
Right.
were supposed to start between July and August. And now we've been pushed to February. So fingers crossed that we can make it in February and we can start rolling. Yeah.
Yeah, good luck. But what's happening in the industry? Have people started working? Is the industry
Yeah, some
open?
people. Pockets. Yeah, like the commercial scene has started, advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So this is much more controlled, much more contained. You can write the commercial around, the model. Keep it simple. With film, it's still slow. It's still. I think one film is shooting in Scotland, Bell Bottom, Akshay Kumar's. I think that has started, and they've shot it abroad. I know my friend Shakun Batra's film is going to start shooting in Goa soon.
Okay.
But besides that, I mean, it's slow. It's been a slow start.
Yeah, I guess it's also about the number of people that you can keep in the unit, and therefore the scale of the
Yeah.
film will
Yeah,
affect.
and the protocols and the SOPs and it's tough. Amir should be shooting Lal Singh Chadda. So these films have started. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Things have changed a lot since you started with your first film, and I'd just like to walk you through the filmography and walk our audience through the filmography. You started with your first film, which was written many years before you actually made it.
Yes.
So Luck by
7 years.
Chance was written what, 6, 7 years before you
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
did it?
6. I mean, I shot it in 2008. I was ready to shoot it in 2001 or 2002.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
when you say you were ready, what was it that you were waiting for a right opportunity? Because before that, you were working anyway with
no, no,
the
no. I was waiting for. I needed to cast it because it wasn't a very cheap film at that point, and especially it wasn't a very commercial film, like a formula film
yeah,
in terms of the story and script. So it needed a particular cast that could enable me to get that kind of funding to make the film the way I wanted it to be made. And it was I just couldn't cast the lead. I just couldn't cast it because people didn't want to do that film. They just thought it was the guy was too negative, and they didn't want to play it. And then there were some actresses who didn't want to play an extra, and it was. I mean, like today, if I had to make the same film, I'd cast it like this. It's
yeah,
changed so much, Yeah.
so much. Yeah, yeah. So when did you cast Farhan in that role? When you were
Actually,
running out of options, or what was
yeah,
happening?
Farhan was the seventh actor. Six actors said no. So six actors said no to the role, and then Farhan was gonna do Rock On, and then I was like, "Why do you want to do this?" And then he was like, "Let me think," and then he read it again, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it."
Okay.
So that but he was still new. But then Ritik came on as Zafar.
Hmm.
That helped. Yeah, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare.
Yeah, you're saying it's a nightmare, yet there were like some very big visions, particularly the song and dance bit with introducing Ritik. You really
Yeah,
played it to the hilt there. It was
yeah,
showcasing a very big scale thing happening. So
yeah,
I find in all your films there's this fantastic shift in scales because the songs can become so big, and
yeah.
the number of people. I was looking at Painted Red the other day, and oh gosh, the sort of crowd management you must have had to do for a scene like that. I mean, you must have
Yeah,
had to
that
do
was
with other
crazy.
people, but
We were
it's
very sorry.
no, it's a big scale that you either envision or you are able to bring together with your crew, and then to get that sort of sense of euphoria and a sense of elation that comes with music, and
Right.
again alternating with that, you have these moments of stunning silence, you have moments of stunning solitude, and with Luck
Yeah.
by Chance, that's why for me it still remains the favorite film
Yeah.
of yours, where that loneliness and that struggle, and even when someone's made it somewhere, he's still so terribly lonely, that
Yeah.
sort of came through very beautifully.
Thank you. Yeah, but it's fun to see when you have a film that's set in the film industry. And what I don't like about a lot of the films about the industry in India is because they've had it so tough with budgets and stuff that you scale it down. Whereas with the industry, you have very different spaces,
Yeah,
and you have very rich people and and people that are really struggling, and then you have people. You have these massive sets and these fantastical things that you step into,
yeah,
but the rooms and the vanity vans are so small, so you needed that difference in scale. You needed to see all these crazy, it's like a circus, it's all kinds of performers in there,
yeah,
and you needed to see it in that way, otherwise it just doesn't ring true, because there is something huge and big and large scaled about the industry and about the fantasy it kind of spins. So you need to see that, and it's fun. I enjoy songs. I enjoy doing them.
yeah.
It's
It also
fun.
must be fun writing out those characters, because the roles that Rishi Kapoor executed, or even
Yeah.
Deepak Kapadia, to sort of
Yeah.
take a very ironical look at the industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like we used to say that if we actually put everything or how crazy some people are, nobody would believe us. I mean, it would seem like a caricature. The truth would seem like it's fake. So we also had to balance it out. But we know these people. We've met these people. They've changed now. These are more my dad's generation, you
Yeah.
know, characters. So he was very involved in writing the dialogue. And Rishi Kapoor, Mr. Rishi Kapoor himself had so much input
I
that was
see.
just delicious. Yeah. Because they've worked with those people. You know?
Yeah. And it's also, I remember many other things I don't remember so clearly, but you had some description about a crocodile in chiffon. And I
Yeah.
found that absolutely delicious. It was superb to have. But what were you doing with the writing? Do you write in Hindi? Do you write in
I
English?
write in English. I write everything in English, including down to the last full stop. I write all my dialogue in English, so I know exactly the tone, the tonality of it, the beats, because I like a particular tone, whether it comes to drama or comedy, and I can't just write a scene and leave that to the dialogue writer to decide. So I will give them an entire screenplay. Like if the film has to be made in English, it can be an
Right.
entire screenplay, and then they translate it or to Hindi. But some things are translated, some things you just take the essence and have to do it in a way that is true to this language, to the
Yeah.
syntax, the
Yeah.
Hindi
So
syntax.
in this act of translation, you sit with your collaborator or with your father, or
Yeah,
who was
I've
working?
done one film with my dad, and then the poems of Zindagi and Gully Boy, of course, he did. And I
Yeah.
did two films on dialogue with my brother, which was Zindagi and Dil Chahta, I'm saying Zindagi and Dil Dhadakne Do.
Yeah.
Farhan did the dialogue for those two,
Yeah.
and then Gully Boy was a dialogue writer called Vijay Maurya, and the rappers, four rappers.
Oh, yes, yes. And that was a very different sort of language which came in.
Yeah,
We'll,
completely, which is why
we'll
I
come
needed
to
them.
that. We'll
Yeah,
come to that. So
yeah,
if we move from Zindagi to, to Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara,
mm,
you had this story about three boys in a car. And of course, it was not just about the journey in the car, it was all about inner journeys and metaphorical
yeah,
journeys that each of them had to go through. So it was very well structured. Each one of them had a mental block, and they had to sort of clear that in some
right.
way and see life in a clearer vision. So were you, or are you still asked or critiqued about boy stories, making men's stories?
I mean, yeah, I do get it. I mean, I think it's kind of chill now a little bit. But even with Gully Boy, I do get it. Like, even in the industry, like I do have people and even actresses that tell me, like, you keep making dude movies, so I definitely get it. But I mean, I'm going to make the narrative that excites me at that point in time.
Yeah.
I'm going to make the story, like tell the story that it's turning me on, because I have to sustain that interest for two and a
Yeah.
half, 3 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I mean, I've always been a bit boyish anyway. I've grown up with boys. I'm very comfortable with boys. Not that I'm not comfortable with girls. I have a lot of girlfriends, but we've just written um, a film with girls just now. I've just finished a whole feature, and yeah. So let's see, But I don't want this to be. I don't want. I don't want the gender of my protagonist to dictate what I make.
Yeah.
I want the feeling that I feel. Like I want what evoke, like something that like for me when I met these rapper kids, and I just realized like art just transcends class. That
Yeah.
feeling of art doesn't stop, border, boundary, caste, creed, religion, nothing. It just cuts across everything. uh,
Mm.
that feeling and that idealism that they had and that truth that they were spitting out, that to me was way more exciting than whether I should make a girl film because I'm a girl. I mean, that's just not interesting enough. If I find a narrative that excites me and that's got a woman in the lead, I'm going to make it. Like Luck by Chance is a woman in the lead. you know
True. True.
it's about two people, or Love Stories is a woman in the lead, or
Yes.
Ghost Stories is two women. you know so I will make those stories. um, I mean, Bombay Talkies is about a little boy who's figuring out his sexuality, who's a kid. You know, so I mean, it's I don't want to be Like I said, I've come out of too many boxes to be stuck in another one.
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course, that's true. And what is it like to deal with a whole lot of stars? I mean, of course, you come from a family within the industry, and these people might be your friends. And I was looking back at a time when the Karan Johar films and the Shah Rukh Khan films would have a lot of eye candy, like, okay, she's my friend, so she'll be there for a line in the song. And we've
Right.
had a whole lot of these party songs, etc., where you'd have this eye candy, and it was spectacle. It was Bollywood as spectacle. But your films take things beyond that, and when you bring in this sort of cast, is it something that you are thinking of in terms of box office or in terms of the commercial viability, or is the producer putting in some pressure?
No, 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 it's both. Because see, films like Dil Dhadakne Do or a film like Zindagi, or even on a level, they're not cheap. They're
No.
not cheap films. I mean, you need a certain scale. You want to do it authentically. Like, I want to shoot The Running of the Bulls, and I want to shoot, Buñuel and Tomatina, and I want to shoot all that. So it requires a certain scale. It requires a certain, uh, 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 the project needs to be viable when you're spending that kind of money. It's business at the end of the day. So then obviously you only think in terms of stars because you won't get the money to make the film otherwise, honestly. But then within that also, I mean, I'm very lucky because I've only worked with good actors,
That's
you
true.
know. And I think I've grown up on some level around stars, so it's not like, oh, they're big stars or
Yeah.
whatever. And when you actually meet them, you realize that they all want to do a good role, and they all want to do good, in the film. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, actors want to act, and they want a good part, and they want good scenes, and they want to perform well, and they want the film to work. So when
Great.
you realize that, and then when you have an ensemble, everyone plays off each other, and they're all good actors, the game just is lifted. They just play off each other, and
Yeah.
it's very, very fun. And I've been very lucky. I've worked with people that were all team players. They're all good actors, and you just end up creating memories that are not replaceable. They're very precious times in our lives, and
True.
everybody holds that time precious. Like the whole cast of Zindagi, that period was really special, or Dil Dhadakne Do, or whatever. And I think
Yeah.
that's what's important. You need to have fun while you're making the movie.
What's your method? Do you workshop, or how do you work with your
I
actors?
workshop.
You workshop.
I workshop. I like to workshop. I mean, I definitely I spend like I do a read with everyone, but I spend individual time with each actor before we get on. So I spend that one-on-one time with each actor. So they have just them and me, and I know when they're alone, there's a sense of what I'm getting from them or what they're feeling in a particular scene. Once they've ironed all their questions out with me alone as a writer
Then you put
director,
them
as
together.
we sorted it out, then I start getting them with each other. And then,
Mm.
more magic starts happening
Yeah.
because then they're playing off each other. So then we kind of adapt the scenes earlier, we workshop it. Sometimes I work with a casting director who's also got like an acting workshop called Atul Mongia. He's
Mhm.
very good. And I workshop with him and the actor. So we just do a lot of improvisations and stuff where the actor gets the tone of the character. We
Right.
just decide the pitch, the tone. We find the character in those workshops.
Mhm.
And then we read together. Then I'll do like, say I would do a reading just alone with Ranveer. Then I'll do Ranveer with Alia and Gully Boy. Then I'll do Ranveer with his family, one reading. Then I'll do Alia with her family. So, so everything is done. Ranveer with the boys, the
Mm.
gang.
Mm.
Ranveer with the
Mm.
rapper. So, you've covered everything. So by the time you get on set, everyone's so comfortable and secure, and then you get on set, and then you're suddenly in the location, and you're in costume, and the alchemy is just different, because you're there, and then you just start playing. Then nobody's worried, everyone's come in there sorted, and then you're confident to play.
So then you can improv and you can make
Mhm.
changes and everything. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's fabulous. That's
Yeah.
great. And in these very contemporary stories and young stories, you also weave in poetry. So in Zindagi, there's the brilliant, brilliant scenes where you use Javed Saab's poetry, and they sort of bring in this element of poetry and lyricism, and combined with it that strange moment of reckoning or that moment of realization.
I love poetry.
It
I
was just
mean, it's
very
just,
beautiful. So
yeah,
what's your take on poetry? Do you write poetry?
I
Do
do in
you
English.
you write
In
in English?
I
Uh-huh.
write in English, and I don't share too much of it. I mean, it's still
Oh,
not. Yeah, I just haven't yet
no,
as
we have
much.
to persuade you to do a poetry reading for us soon.
Yeah, soon.
Soon.
No, I love poetry, and I feel it gives you liberty and it gives you license to actually hit someone's heart without being boring.
Yeah.
It gives you that flight of fancy, and
Mm,
it gives you it takes it just it tells you a truth, but it gives you a whole. It makes you feel it. It just doesn't inform you.
that's very true.
You know what I mean? It evokes a feeling. It's
But
not just
also, I
information.
feel that you're giving that to the audience because, just watching a narrative or watching a story and coming out is one thing. And when you have these sort of moments when you're lifted beyond the actual narrative and
Yeah.
you're going into a realm of
I feel
philosophy,
it is, yeah,
it's
it
very
does
beautiful.
something when I watch it or hear poetry or whatever. I feel that way. So I like to use it.
What are the special bits of writing from your mother and from your father, which perhaps have entered your thinking or your mental realm?
I think with my mother, it's been relationships, intimacy, interpersonal
Yeah.
relationships, those nuances. And I think with my father, coming from my father, it's been the bigger picture,
Mm,
the scale, structure, plot, those things. And ultimately, what is the film about? Like, what do you want to say? You
yeah.
know? And with my mother, it's been more like personal, interpersonal,
Which
nuance.
perhaps helps in making your characters so real because again with Zindagi, I've met innumerable people. Even yesterday someone was telling me I'm that Farhan character. That's who I was with my friends, so how does she make it so relatable?
I love that when people say
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that. I love it.
Well, the
Yeah.
same person said, is Zoya still single? Then I'm in. So
Yes.
as an aside,
Yes.
he's here, he's listening. Okay, so with Dil Dharakne Do, what was the seed of your idea for this film, which then became such a tourism ploy? Like all of India wanted to go to
It was,
Spain.
yeah, it was basically Dil Dharakne Do. I wanted to um, riff on a brother-sister relationship where nobody else in the world has the experience you've had, has been raised by the same people as you.
Yeah.
So on some level, knows you better than that. Anyone else is your sibling,
Mm,
I think. Nobody has your history. The closest to your history is your sibling. And I feel it's such a tight relationship. And in India, because of the gender politics, it's also complicated. Um, because you are in a society, even if it's educated and privileged and stuff, where people treat their girls different from how they treat their boys.
yeah.
And I think it came from there. And then it was like it became like a dysfunctional family story. And then we didn't want it to be set in a city where people can just leave. We wanted them to be stuck somewhere. And then we were like, why not do it on a ship? Because at least that's visually interesting,
Yeah.
and I haven't done that. So that's how it came. And then, of course, we were like, let's look at this family through the eyes of the family dog, you know? Because
Yeah.
I
Which
had
is
a dog, a Zen,
brilliant.
a
So
beagle,
clever.
and Zen was like, I think he was a philosopher, like one of the two. We haven't made up our minds yet. And he would just watch us and just look at us like he was observing human behavior. And that's where it came from. So we were like, we're going to reverse National Geographic from
Oh.
animal looking at this family. Yeah.
Yeah, I lost a bit of what you said at the end there because there was some sort of
I
connection
said we
drop.
wanted to reverse the National Geographic and
Yeah,
have the Desmond Morris kind of take, but not looking at animals, actually looking through the animal at humans. So
yeah.
it's him figuring out this Punjabi family.
You also
Yeah.
said somewhere that Dil Dharakne Do was your way of looking into a world from the
Yeah.
outside, looking from the
Yeah. Like,
outside.
I think Dil Dharakne Do on some level is similar
Mm-hmm.
to Luck by Chance because they're both like a fly on the wall kind of approach,
Yeah.
and it's both entering a completely like it's a world with all its its workings, its politics, its values, its different people with different self-esteem where everybody fits in, all that they're both quite similar to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there is a sort of distancing. I mean, you as the writer or the director, do you feel that sometimes you're terribly involved with your characters, or sometimes you keep yourself a step away, which is no, no.
No, I mean, you get involved with the script when you're writing it. So you
Yeah.
can tend to get a bit myopic and then you got to leave it for a couple of weeks and then get to it. And I mean, I'm in a family, everyone's a writer. My brother, my father, my mother. So they are brutal. So you can just give them the script and then, all the feedback comes in and then be like, this doesn't work. This is boring. This is crap. Try this.
Right.
That works. Yeah, that helps.
Yeah. That's very special, actually, to have so many people
Yeah.
who feedback at home itself within
Yeah.
that territory. I don't know whether it's sometimes a bit daunting, or it had been daunting at any point of time.
I mean, it's not daunting, but sometimes it can be annoying if you want to say something and no one's taking your point of view, or they want to give you a point of view and you don't agree with it, and then they are like, no, but just listen to me. So it can get annoying because you can't even be like, you don't know what I'm talking about, or you don't get it, because they totally get it and they totally know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. So
Yeah.
you can't even be like, you haven't done it before. There's no normal argument because they've all done it before and they've all been successful at it. So it's very, yeah. So that can get sometimes a bit like, oof. Yeah.
So, what brought you to Gully Boy and Murad? I mean, where did the
Oh
seed of
God.
this idea come from?
I was editing Dil Dharakne Do. And my editor, Anand Subaya, he's a musician. So he's really clued into what's going on and what's not. He one day at the edit showed me a video. This kid, 21-year-old kid called Naved Sheikh, aka Nazi, right? Singing this track. I mean, singing means like spitting this track called Afat. And
Yeah.
it was a really tacky little video shot in Dharavi on like some iPhone or iPad type thing.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't stop watching it. Like I was just watching it in loop. Like I knew what it was, and I just kept going. And then I started looking at him, and then he had done another song called Meri Gali Mein. And I'm like, who's this guy? Who are these kids? And till then the rap scene in India was very commercial, pretty Bollywoodized on a level, and it was all
Also
about
quite underground, really. Also not at all near mainstream.
No, I didn't know the underground scene. This was the
Uh,
underground scene. Nazi was the underground scene.
yeah.
I only knew what was mainstream. And it was like very about chicks and cars and dancing and, stuff that I don't really relate to on a level. And this guy was singing about himself, his life, his family structure and life, the system and how it screws him, the social political environment he's in. And you're like, wow, because there's no representation for this kid anywhere in pop culture,
Yeah.
right? And they're repping themselves. So I called up this musician friend of mine, Ankur Tiwari, and I said, do you know this guy? And Ankur used to run MTV Indies. So Ankur knew the whole scene and he was like, I'll find him. I was like, can you call him for a meeting? I want to meet him for half an hour. So Ankur called him to Ankur's house and I went over, and he was a bit awkward to see me initially. But what was a half an hour meeting ended up being 4 hours.
Uh,
We just talked and talked and talked. And then I went to his shows and then I met Divine through him. Divine opened for one of his shows and I started interviewing him and interviewing Divine. And I was like, oh my God. And they were their whole philosophy was like, uh, what is rap? Rap is telling your truth. Your story has to be your truth. And I was just, it was like going back to film school with the same kind of idealism and the same kind of like, we're going to
Yeah.
change the world and that energy. And I mean, they're just amazing. They're just supremely talented, supremely cool. And they were just great kids. And I just kept hanging with them. And there were these like really tiny voices, from this large slum in Asia. And Rima and me, my co-writer, we were like, there's a movie here. And we just started interviewing them extensively and then we wrote a film around it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing that it actually came from the music itself, from
We
the
came
poem.
to music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's what I'm saying. That's the thing about any kind of art. It's like there's no way Naved Sheikh and me would cross paths.
yeah,
I mean, we are in such different worlds.
yeah.
There's no way we would cross paths. Like our wires wouldn't cross in a city like Bombay. And it was
Yeah.
just an innocuous, like little video he put up that somebody showed me, and it just changed the next 3 years of my life and his.
Yeah, and probably changed a political way that you look at life as well, your own,
Yeah,
political way of looking at art. Because for a lot of them, I think
absolutely.
you said somewhere you actually used the word purity, and that
Yeah,
engaged me a lot because we are trained musicians and we talk about purity in the classical or in the
yeah,
traditional fashion, and you were talking about purity about these young, very young, some
yeah.
teenagers who are writing their own poetry, writing their own life, and so that truth that you talk about is absolutely amazing.
And
Um,
it's incredibly contagious. It's
yes,
incredibly contagious because when you come into the industry, any industry, and you have to come out there and you have to, validate your business and you have to make that money and you have to do things, you suddenly forget where you started. And,
true.
you forget that. And this was like a full on refresher for me. It
Yeah.
was incredible.
Yeah, it's
It
also
was
that energy that comes into the film. It's not just the protagonist's energy. There's a lot of energy around, and
yeah.
even MC Sher, that fabulous actor who does MC Sher,
Siddharth
and
Chaturvedi,
all
he's
the supporting
lovely.
actors, they're just brilliant. Because I think
Yeah,
you talked about this before as well, that it's really not always about the protagonist's story, and that story wouldn't stand if it didn't have this sort of architecture supporting it. And
right.
fabulous actors in Gully Boy who did this.
Thank
But what
you.
what about the gender aspect, or the way you write Alia's character and the language she uses? So let's come back to your translation with your co-writer or
Right.
collaborator.
Alia's character Safina is actually a character that Rima Kakti wrote in another script. So Alia was this Safina was this character, and she was part of another film. And I read that script, and I'd fallen in love with her, right? And that script, for whatever reason, got shelved. And
Um,
but I mean, obviously, that was a completely different story, and so she did completely different things in it. But the core of her, who she was, and when we started writing this, and at that time, Divine also had told me he was dating a girl, and that girl was very possessive and stuff like that, because when he had started rapping and all. So
yeah.
we were discussing that, and I was like, what are we doing? What is Safina doing these days? Okay, she was lying in a drawer. She was lying in a script in a drawer, was never going to get made. So we took her out of that film and we put her into this movie.
Right, right.
And we obviously fit her in, means we wrote all the scenes for this film and
Uh-huh.
tweaked it and changed it and then adapted her to this movie. So I adopted Safina, right? And then, of course, we worked her for Gully Boy.
Mm.
And what I like about her core was that here was a woman who was a girl who was super bright, super smart, and very clear about what she wanted. She wanted to do what her dad does. She wants to be a doctor. and she's in love with this guy, and she wants to be with this guy, and she wants to be a doctor, and she wants her own practice, and that's that. She's not interested in anything else. She's not interested in playing hooky. She's never going to smoke. She's never going to drink. She's not interested in any other boys. She's very clear about her life, and she's going to get it by hook or by crook. She's also somebody who is angry because she has a lot of potential, and when she was growing up, and she's also got a personality like that's out there, and she's got sass. She has a mouth on her. She's that person. And then suddenly when you grow up and as a woman you hit puberty, she'd have to cover her head and can't go out and can't do this. So there's a lot of anger at being treated in a particular way only because of her gender. And she has violence in her because her mother hits her. So, I mean, violence is a language and it's a form of communication. And if you are communicated with like that, you will tend to use it. So that's the way we kind of saw her. And we also wanted to see the vulnerable side of her because she actually doesn't want to lie.
Yeah.
She wants to just be normal and she just wants to be left alone, as any other girl her age would be anywhere in the world, but she's not. So, and she's the kind of person who's not going to just sit down and take it.
Yeah.
She'll do what she wants eventually, so she was kind of juicy. And I feel like Murad was freedom for her. Murad was someone who would never tell her what to do. And, he's almost a bit in awe of her, and of her actual ambition and fervor and belief, self-confidence. Like he's in awe of that. And for her, she can't do any wrong. So she thinks he's her freedom. So when that is threatened, she goes off.
Yeah.
Every time it comes to him, she flips out. So I thought she was a very loving, very affectionate, I love Safina.
Yeah, we adore her too. And, when a character is lying and manipulating, you still love her. When she's bashing someone else up, you still love her. She's very real.
Understand it. And it's not right. It's not right what she's doing. But she's threatened and that's all she's got,
Yeah.
So
and
you
then she'll fight for what she has. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to take on questions, but very quickly, I'll just move to Made in Heaven. And if you can tell us how different that experience was about working on a web series where you directed some of the episodes and then brought in other people. So that's again, a larger collaboration, much larger.
I loved it. I mean, I had never done in that 1 year, I'd worked on a short film, a web series, and a feature. It was insanity. But a web series was interesting because we had never written 8 hours of content, But so that was a new beast for us. How do we graph this? How do we have characters? But there are lots of perks because you can actually develop characters. You can actually have layers that are peeled. You can build them and, just have people that stay with you, You don't have to be in a hurry. You don't have censorship. So it helps you. You don't have box office pressure, it takes a lot off. You're freer, you're much freer to explore themes as well that you may not be able to get to do on a theatrical. So I really enjoyed the process. Though I have to say, when you're doing a web series, you have to shoot very fast. You have to shoot, if you shoot 1.5 to 2 pages a day in a film, you have to shoot about 6 pages on a web series.
Yeah.
So you have to shoot you are just do. You're you're just going for it. Yeah. So that's a bit hectic, but it was amazing.
No, also the with the protagonist there, and the way you bring in the idea of gay identity and repressed gay identity in India, and the other girl who's struggling in a bad marriage. Were these sort of ideas with you before, or you?
I mean, they were when we wanted to do a marriage show. We wanted to not a marriage show. Sorry, it's a wedding show. We wanted to do a wedding show, and then we were like, if we have wedding planners, it would just be interesting to have 2 people that at this point in their lives are not really kosher with heterosexual unions, So we had somebody who's gay and who's kind of still relatively in the closet, at least with his family, not with the world. But he deals with the system because that's who he is and that's how he's been brought up. And you're in India and it was illegal, not anymore, but it was illegal, and you just dealt with it in that way. You didn't really fight it till it actually comes to your doorstep
Yeah.
and you get affected by it. And then there was this woman who's in a marriage and she's trapped, and it's kind of her own doing because she clawed her way into this marriage.
Yeah.
And when you do things like not for the right reasons, sometimes they backfire. And so it's again about like insiders and outsiders in a city like Delhi, which is so clannish and cliquish, and how do you get in there and how do you maintain that space, and how do you fit in when you are actually a misfit? Either you come from a wrong class or you're the wrong sexuality, or how do you fit in? And then you realize that, dude, I don't think I want to fit in. So that was basically the show, and it was interesting to do it like a procedural, where every episode we have a new wedding, and we have new families, and we have new conflicts, and we have new Indianisms that can come out, that are special to us, and costumes and celebration, and
Oh, yeah. All
no
of
one
that.
does that like us. Yeah, so that
All of
was
that. But I think these multiple stories allow you to peel off further
yeah,
layers than
yeah,
masks.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that's fun.
it
That's
is
the
fun.
fun of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take on questions
Yes,
because we could go on for a long time, and
yes.
there are some questions which have been sent to us beforehand. Okay, so there's a question from Debashish who says, "What is it like to direct another director in your film?" And he's obviously talking of Farhan here.
Yeah. It's pretty easy actually because Farhan's also an actor, and sometimes it's also very convenient because sometimes I'm in a hurry and I have to do something, and then I can just be like, dude, can you just take the shot? So sometimes I just make him shoot something, like a shot. Like once we were shooting the skydiving, and I was on a shot where Ritik is landing. I had to take it, and the sun was going down, and we didn't have enough time. And we had to shoot a cheat shot of Farhan in the taxi when he just lands in Barcelona. And it's a close up, and he has the headphones on, and he's driving, and the sun is there. It was just one shot. And I was like, Farhan, get in the car and shoot yourself. So he went and he did his own shot and came back and shot it. So it's convenient as well. It's
Oh,
convenient.
yeah. Okay, there's a question from someone who must have been at Xavier's in the same year as you were, Bindya Malhotra. She's here in London now, and she is part of the Better Group. And she asks, how did your time in St. Xavier's influence your career onwards? Did you do theater in Xavier's?
No, I didn't. I actually did Xavier's. I mean, besides having an absolute blast and opening my head because of the amazing people that I met there, and then I studied literature and sociology when I was at Xavier's. And I think
Yeah.
they both have affected my writing in a big way and my approach to subjects in a big way. Literature, I mean, it gives you so much. It gives you so many worlds and characters and plot lines and conflicts and stories, and you always have that access to dip into because you have to do so much reading and you study the classics. So that definitely helps in terms of writing and creating characters. But sociology, I think, has helped me big time in my approach to a world, in how like Rima studied psychology, who's my co-writer. She
Yeah.
studied sociology and psychology, and I
Oh,
studied literature. And yeah, so I mean, it's no, she did she did literature and psychology, and I did literature and sociology. And I think it works for us. It's all come back to help us in
yeah.
some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you have Tiger Baby, so we are really looking
Yes.
forward to interesting things happening there. There's a question from Mukulika Banerjee, who is a professor of anthropology at LSE. And she says, as an enormous admirer of your work, I want to ask, what is your writing regime? Do you write every day? And if you can share with us what your daily regime is, how important is discipline to you? How
I
do you
write every day.
you
If
write
when
it?
I'm writing, when I have to deliver, I write every day, and I'm very disciplined. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. So, I mean, Remind Me will usually sit from 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. and then we sit for a couple of hours. When we are only bouncing stuff, then it's about 2, 3 hours a day. But when we are writing, then we'll sit maybe from 10 or 11 to 4 or 5. And we sometimes we don't even speak, we just write, you know. It's very important because I have never, I mean, I'm not lucky enough where the muse just comes to me. The muse never comes to me. I have to sit at the laptop and I have to start work and then it'll come. You know, then it's when it starts flowing. And it doesn't happen otherwise.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
I cannot hear.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, I couldn't hear what you were saying. Maybe you moved a
Sundays
bit
when you
far
don't
away.
feel like working, we just research.
Yeah.
We talk, we watch material that's related to our subject. We'll watch films or we'll watch documentaries or we'll read articles or anything that's related to the subject. Or sometimes we just don't do anything, we just gossip. But we sit there for those hours, you know. We sit there for those hours because that you have to do. That discipline of sitting there, you have to do.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Are you there, Zoya?
Yes, I'm very much here.
Okay. Pictures frozen. Here's a long question, but somebody who's basically saying that there are more Asians in the UK than the Black community, and the Black community and Black artists get a lot of recognition and are represented in the UK, whereas the Indian creative community and the UK Asians haven't really had a good working dialogue yet. And the sort of films that are made here in the UK by the Bombay industry don't necessarily represent our reality, the diaspora reality.
Fair enough.
So, do you think that something can be done to create this creative dialogue
I think
uh,
so.
with
I think
Indian
so.
counterparts?
I think so. I mean, I think like Bhaji on the beach was super interesting. I think Bend It Like Beckham was lovely.
Yeah,
I
those
think
those were made by a filmmaker
Pakistan.
who's here, who's
Yeah,
based here.
but I feel, I mean, we are working on a show. I don't
Yeah.
want to talk too much about it. We are working on a show about a woman set in the UK, Indian woman. Yeah, so we are working on a show about that, and it's like a true story, but we can't talk about it till things happen.
Mm.
But I feel we need to start. We need to start that conversation, and we need to start the it needs to be, you need to make films for
Mm.
that world. You know what I'm saying? It's not necessarily that, the Hindi film industry
Yeah,
will
yeah.
come and they're not going to do that. They're going to do what suits this audience.
Yes,
And
true.
that audience is slightly different. So you have to tell films for that audience and a
Mm.
global audience.
Yeah,
And you have to talk about the UK, Indian UK scene,
yeah.
and it's going to happen. It's a matter of time. It's going to happen. And if
So
you know
if there were younger writers or filmmakers, do you think they could seek apprenticeship with filmmakers like you or
absolutely, absolutely. And if their job's going, yeah, absolutely.
so I think a lot
And
of
even
people are asking these questions.
ideas, if they have something interesting that's based there, we are totally open to that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Totally. Because
Okay.
today you can't be like this. You can't be in a pond.
No,
When
no.
like we have Made in Heaven, and Made in Heaven is, on a service which is next to the marvelous Miss Maisel, which is next to another show, which is next to another show, which is your content is being watched all over the world. Everybody's watching everything. So
Yeah.
today you should be able to tell stories anywhere. You know?
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Shantanu Goswami is asking, would you write a period piece?
Yes, actually, I'm working on two.
On two.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And one is a show, so three. One pictures and one is a show, three.
Goodness.
Chandru has caught me at the right time. Yes.
Perfectly. So Deepika Khaitan is also asking, what's your next big idea in the making? Now you've talked about three ideas which are happening
I
and maybe
can't
one
share
more.
them. I can't share them yet.
Yeah.
You know, once they're announced, they can be shared.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Debashish Bhattacharya is asking, is the industry moving online like Netflix? Well, a lot
I
of it is.
A lot of it is, and as it should.
Yeah.
But we are waiting for the COVID horror to pass because nothing beats the theatrical experience, and we just want our theaters to reopen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
last Friday we went to see Tenet in the IMAX theater
How was
after
it?
6 months, and it was like I'm in heaven. I'm not getting out of here.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You miss
Nothing
the
beats
big
that.
screen. You just
Nothing. Yeah,
miss.
yeah. So I mean, that is not going to be changed. So yes, of course, we're going to use every medium. We are filmmakers and storytellers, and we'll use every medium that comes our way. But
Yeah.
nothing beats the big screen.
But also with the shifting medium, the new narratives which are coming into,
Yeah,
the Indian film industry, and what you see today as good cinema, because we
yeah.
grew up on this whole division between the main entertainment
Yes.
industry and
The
Shyam
parallel.
films and the
Yes.
parallel cinema, and
Yes.
it's all blended, and
Oh,
wonderful stories these days, just
yeah.
incredible stories. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good time actually right
It
now.
is a very good time. For writers, certainly it is a great time.
Yeah.
How do you deal with class conflict, DDD to boy? You've talked about this, but is there anything else you'd add on? This is Resham who's asking you this question.
I mean, the thing is that I am privy to both these worlds. I dip in and out of both these worlds, like Dil Dhadakne Do and Gully Boy, in a sense. It's both part of my reality. You can't live in India and not have any access to, like, I live in Bombay, I've been to Dharavi. You can't be in Mumbai and not.
Yeah, and you started with Salam Bombay, so that was your training
You
ground.
have to be around, you know what I mean? So, in a sense, you just have to be open to things. You can't be in a bubble, especially if you want to be a writer or a director. You got to get out there, you got to keep your ear to the ground, you got to meet people, you got to be open. You should be able to be at a party and a cruise and a gig in Dharavi. That's the
Yeah,
point. Yeah.
yeah, very true. Chitra is asking, do you hear the accent and delivery as you write it, or it happens when actors come in? Okay, so what do the
A bit
actors?
of both. A bit of both.
Yeah.
Depends on the character. Yeah.
And do you visualize the shot already when you write with actors in mind? No.
No, that
So
comes
that,
later.
that's the chemistry. That's the alchemy that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, that comes later.
And Srinanda is asking, would you consider making a movie on virtual learning and how education has shifted?
Uh, yeah, I could. Right now, I don't know anything about it. The only thing I know is all my friends that have kids are fried because there's no school and everyone's homeschooling. So
Yeah.
the parents are just like, oh my God, you know? So yeah, I mean, I don't know yet. I don't know yet. I don't know enough to
Yeah.
respond to it.
So in India, kids have not gone back to school yet.
No.
So over here, kids have gone back from this week.
Okay.
It's a huge shift because millions of kids have gone back to school,
Right.
and
No,
we
not.
have to see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, there are lots of questions trickling in, but I think we'll have to keep a look at the time. Zoya, is there anything particular that you'd like to add to our conversation?
No, no, it
Oh,
was very.
someone's asking about Katrina Kaif. Is she a director's actor?
She is a director's actor, definitely, and she's incredibly special. Like, she's one of those actors, weirdly, that every director who's worked with her will work with her again. in a heartbeat. She's super, super committed. She works really hard. She gives you, she's there. She's solid, rock solid.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you brought in these characters, the scuba diver or the scuba diving teacher, and then Safina in Gully Boy, characters whom we've not seen before, and possibilities for female actors which we hadn't gauged before. So it's very interesting. I
Yeah.
sometimes think what happened to Sona. Her name was Sona, right?
Yes,
In
Sona.
first film. Maybe
Yeah.
there should be a sequel to that.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
would be fun actually.
That
To
would be
bring
such
that over.
fun. Yeah, we
Yeah.
must do that.
Yeah.
Okay, and a last question. Do you have a favorite film from those you've directed?
I mean, it's very tough because you're always attached to your last one. But I don't think that emotionally what I felt in my first film I'll ever feel again. So I
Yeah,
would not by chance.
yeah,
It's just your first one is always like it's the first love. It's too special.
it's true. And
Everything.
particularly if you've had a bit of struggle with that,
Yeah, yeah,
that becomes
yeah.
even more special. Yeah, things get
So
easier later.
yeah.
But Tiger Baby, I mean, tell us about Tiger Baby before you go.
Okay, so Tiger Baby is my company. Me and Rima have a company, production house, and we are going to tell stories and shows and all kinds of narratives. We want to work everywhere in the world. We want to tell quintessentially Indian stories. Um, I mean, but like stories to a global audience, hopefully. So even though we are working here, we want to start expanding it, and yeah, yeah, and we're looking
Good
for
luck with that.
yeah.
Good luck. I'm sure
Yeah,
there's some amazing stuff happening, and a lot of
yeah,
young people who've been asking me about this. I hope you're listening and you can get in
yeah,
touch with Tiger Baby.
yeah.
So good
Hope,
luck. Good luck, Zoya. Thank
hopefully
you
this
for
UK
giving
job
us
works
this
out and
time.
we are there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We'll be there for a while if it happens. We'll be moving for a bit. That would be
Uh-huh.
good.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Is that
So
it?
with that, we'll say thank you
Thank
and
you so much.
good
This
luck
was so
with
nice.
Made
Yeah.
in Heaven Part.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Lots of luck.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
bye, bye. And bye to all of you, the lovely audience.
Bye.
Bye bye.